You are watching End Zone, sponsored by Brahms.
And welcome to another edition of the End Zone along with Camryn Johnson. I am Colby Daniels. It is a monster matchup for the Sooners this week. The Oklahoma Sooners, the Missouri Tigers, finally coming back to Norman, Oklahoma. It's been about a month since Oklahoma played in front of the home crowd. I don't think Sooner fans are necessarily worried about that because the road Sooners have been better than the home Sooners, in fact. And what a two-game swing it's been at Knoxville against Tennessee, at Tuscaloosa against Alabama. I mean, I don't know how many people wrote off Oklahoma after the Ole Miss loss, but they've done everything they needed to do to climb back into the playoff picture. And what a like 3-week stretch it's been.
I know. It's been so fun to watch. It feels like you get a win over Tennessee. You're like, okay, they have a shot to beat Alabama. Then you beat Alabama. It's like the world's our oyster. I mean, obviously, you got to be careful with that. These are two important games, especially this weekend. But it has just been a fun journey to watch. Don't
want to fall into the trap. Obviously, I think we would all say like winning those road games would be much tougher, especially against those opponents, would be much tougher than two home games against Missouri and LSU. But that's the trap, right? That's where you might get caught up in falling short. But I think with this Oklahoma team, they're in one-possession games literally every week, right? So Brent Venables has said it many times. They're not good enough to overcome little mistakes, and if you're not focused on your opponent, you're going to make little mistakes. We're going to talk a lot about the college football playoff a little bit later in the show as well. I've made the argument, I know fans are like, are we going to be in? What's the matchup's going to look like? Blah, blah, blah. They're in the playoff right now. Like, this weekend is a playoff game against the Missouri Tigers. You win, playoff hopes are still alive. You lose, it's all over.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of being, I think, in the SEC specifically, that every game feels like a big game. You know, in other conferences, maybe it's like, you know, this time of year, you got some teams stepping out of conference play, and that even happens in the SEC as well. But, like, it's just every week. It's a game that gets you excited to watch and just gets you nervous if you're a fan. And, I mean, it's a good time of year.
And rivalry matchups, right? Who doesn't love a good rivalry matchup? I say that jokingly because I think there is, like, a rivalry brewing. I don't know that I would call OU Missouri a rivalry game, but a rivalry between the two schools is brewing. There is some bad blood between the two fan bases. Obviously, it's going to be an annual opponent, so that adds a little element. Brent Venables was asked if Missouri is a new rival to the Sooners earlier this week.
They're going to be on our schedule every year for the foreseeable future. So, and all those other things to me, they mean nothing to me. They probably mean something to somebody else, but I don't get into all that, spouting back at whatever's out there. You know, I just laugh at it. It's okay. You know what I mean? I don't mind it whether it's good or bad. It's at me or it's at us or it's at someone else. It's just not my style. I try to focus on what it takes to win and the things that matter the most and things that I can control. So if everybody wants to make that a rival, fine. If they don't, I'm fine too. So that may not endear myself to the story or to anybody else, but they're on the schedule.
I don't know how many people out there want Brent to like just say, yes, it's a rivalry game. He's obviously not going to play it up any more than it needs to be played up. But I know a lot of Sooner fans that a year ago maybe weren't on the train of like, I hate Missouri or this has any rivalry aspect to it. And then that crazy game in Columbia took place last year. It was 10-9 early in the fourth quarter, and it was a 30-23 final, multiple scores down the stretch. And then you have Eli Drinkwitz saying this after the game, which fired up the Sooner fan base.
This will be real disappointing to Bob Stoops, but OU doesn't always whip Missouri's ass anymore. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
That's how we started the press conference, and I think all of Sooner Nation was just furious with this guy in the Missouri program.
Yeah, it feels kind of opposite of Brent Venables saying, you know, say what you want about it, it is what it is, and then you got Drinkwitz out there kind of fanning the flames. I think it makes it fun. I mean,
I like it.
In a new landscape of college football where some say you lose the passion, it's nice to have those rivalries. Of course, you hate to hear that kind of stuff when you're on the losing end of it, but I think this year it's great motivation. That's the stuff that it's bulletin board material. It makes it a lot more fun.
And it'll be fun if it grows into a rivalry. Obviously, you don't have OU Nebraska anymore. That's been long gone. You don't have Bedlam anymore. OU Texas is going to be the great rivalry forever. But if you can add a secondary rival into the yearly schedule, I think that's an awesome thing. All right, let's talk about this matchup because the Oklahoma Sooner defense obviously is center stage for everything that the Sooners have positioned themselves for. Finally, the turnovers are coming. I know last week they were without R. Mason Thomas. It's a next man up mentality, and that will have to be the case this weekend regardless as they face the best rushing attack they've seen all year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you mentioned R. Mason Thomas being out last week and next man up mentality. You saw that the guys are capable of doing that. Taylor Wine had a fantastic outing. I think everything is clicking for this defense. It has been all year. It almost feels like somehow it's even better than it was. Now that you get those turnovers coming, it's going to be really fun to see how they handle this offense, especially knowing that right now the defense is kind of what's carrying the team.
It's been 3 straight weeks where they have faced, I think, the 3 best passing teams on their entire schedule, right? You go from Chambliss and Ole Miss to Joey Aguilar in Tennessee and Ty Simpson in Alabama. And look, I know all 3 of those offenses were able to put up some pretty good numbers in the passing game. None of those offenses really set the world on fire in the rushing department. You're facing a Missouri team this week that obviously there's some questions about what the quarterback situation is going to be on Saturday, but their bread and butter is the rushing attack, and Oklahoma's been great against the run all year. Ahmad Hardy, though, leads the nation in rushing, over 1,300 yards on the season, 15 touchdowns, and I don't know if per game. I mean, that's a giant gap between the 2 averages, and which one is going to land closer to their average, that might tell the story of the ball game ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. OU, the defense is great. I think OU's, we've been saying all season, they got to get their own run game going because you can't, obviously they have so far, but at some point you got to give the defense some help too, and they've been doing that. I mean, I just would like to see OU get that run game rolling. They're maybe not going to put up over 200 yards like Missouri is, but to have an answer on their own side. But yeah, it's just going to be a fun matchup to watch. We've said it before: unstoppable force, immovable object. Which one wins?
Well, speaking of that Sooner offense, we'll talk about some of the deficiencies there. Luckily, for the last few weeks, they've been helped out big time by the defense and special teams, so we'll get into that as well. That's on the other side. Monster matchup for the Sooners this week. It's Oklahoma, Missouri, a playoff-type matchup. All right, welcome back to the End Zone along with Camryn Johnson. I am Colby Daniels. Big matchup for the Sooners. It's Oklahoma, Missouri, a playoff-type game for Oklahoma when you look at the college football playoff potential. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But, this Sooner offense, we've got to talk about it. It's been, I think, frustrating at times, surprising at times, both good and bad. I don't think you can really tell the story, though, of the Oklahoma offense, especially over the last few weeks, without talking about the impact of the defensive turnovers and how that really impacts the team overall. Brent Venables spoke on turnovers impacting all sides of the football.
Here late, we've been a little more fortunate to force those turnovers, and they're huge in these games that are decided by one score. And when you're not getting them, it puts a little more stress on every other part of your team. And you don't have the short field goal for the kicker or the short field for the offense to go operate and start to get in a rhythm and create a lot of pressure on people. So when you're not getting them, it does you inherently every other part of your team, is a quote-unquote a victim to that. I think we lost a turnover battle maybe 4-1 at Missouri last year. We scored a defensive touchdown. They scored a defensive touchdown to ultimately win the game. Nothing impacts a game like turnovers. It always has been that way. It's not a new thing.
I don't know about you. My jaw was on the floor with all those turnovers down the stretch of last year's OU Missouri game. 4 turnovers for Oklahoma. I mean, that's hard to overcome against anybody. And it was still one of those crazy games where, it got away at the very end. 2 defensive scores for the Sooner defense in the last 2 weeks, not to mention 3 takeaways total against Tennessee, 3 takeaways total against Alabama. I mean, all those turnovers combined with the special teams effort over the last couple weeks have really put the offense in a good situation. You take those away, the offense has done virtually nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the scores against Alabama. You have the Satania punt return that sets up a field goal. You have the strip of the punt return to Ryan Williams, who sets up the John Mateer rushing touchdown. You take 3 points off the board with Taylor Wine blocking the field goal before halftime. I mean, that's just a couple of the special teams plays on top of the fact that, I mean, Tate Sandell is I'm removing him from the special teams conversation at this point, and he's going into the offensive weapon conversation. That's how good he's been. But I mean, both the defense and special teams have done an incredible job to put Oklahoma's offense in a position to put points on the board.
Who would have thought, if you go like 5 years ago and you say that OU's offense is the weak link of the team, I would have never believed you.
Never in a million years.
They've just always been an offensive team. But I mean, hey, 2 out of the 3, you'll take it, but really, they really need to start helping out the rest of the guys. Fortunately, the defense doesn't look like it's been worn down at all. They're still firing on all cylinders, but yeah, those special teams plays, especially, Isaiah Satania, he's been fun to watch this period, but I mean, you think about what happens if the defense doesn't get those defensive scores and special teams doesn't set you up close to the red zone like that. What's their record if the
offense is starting on their own 20 every single drive of the game? Like, what does that produce? Yeah. That's a scary thought. Now, I think there is another side to that coin. Maybe you're more aggressive in the play calling if that becomes a reality. But this is a week you go into a game against a Missouri defense that's pretty much ranked in the top 25 in the country in nearly every metric. You have some banged up running backs. I mean, Xavier Robinson took a shot down low that he came up gimpy, never looked the same. Torrey Blaylock took a monster shot in the Alabama game. We'll see both of those big hits in this highlight sequence. But it's really the John Mateer run game is the bread and butter of this offense, and then you just hope that sometimes when he pulls the trigger, it doesn't get picked off. Alabama dropped like 3 interceptions last week. Luckily, OU didn't have any turnovers, but I mean, it's kind of this like Jekyll and Hyde. How aggressive do you want to be? How conservative do you want to be to not put yourself in a position to turn the ball over?
Yeah, it's just been so interesting, the progression, or maybe not progression, the roller coaster that has been the offense. It's like one day the run game's carrying the team, then the next game it's John Mateer's run game that's carrying it, and all of a sudden your running backs aren't doing hardly anything. But again, they're doing just enough. It'd be nice to see some consistency down the stretch. But I mean, obviously everyone says that, but especially, Ben
Arbuckle was asked earlier this week if because the defense is playing so well, if his approach to calling plays has changed at all.
I don't necessarily think it changes how I approach a game or how I call a game. Am I sometimes looking, how can I take pressure off the defense? Because, I mean, they are playing so well, and they're very, very good at what they do, and they put us in a lot of really good situations a lot. So how can I take some pressure off of them is more kind of how I look at some things. But from how I call it just offensively, no, it doesn't necessarily change my mindset going into a game, going into a week, going into a drive. At the end of the day, we got to stay on the field and put points on the board.
Where are you at? You think they've been more conservative, or do you think it's been close to the same?
It's hard to tell. It's very, I feel like it's been close to the same. I feel like, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah. I don't think they've quit being aggressive, but I don't think they're being. It's not pedal to the metal. It's maybe like they're still pushing the pedal, but it's not all the way to the floor, so to speak. But
that's a good way to put it.
It's an interesting situation they're in because you don't want another Texas performance where you're the one turning the ball over.
Right.
You want to be cautious, but at some point you've got to help the defense and the special teams offensively. All right, we've got to take a timeout. Oklahoma in the college football playoff. That's next here on the End Zone. All right, as we get ready for Oklahoma, Missouri, obviously, I've said this is a playoff game. Yeah. You are in the playoffs now. It's not the official playoffs that start December 19th and December 20th, but this is a playoff game. You win, your hopes are still alive. You lose, and it is over. We're not talking about this playoff bracket, but Oklahoma beats Alabama. We all knew they were going to skyrocket up the rankings. The question was how high. I don't know that I think they deserve to still be below Oregon. That comes into the whole strength of schedule conversation. But the point is, Oklahoma's in the field. They were number 8 this week. They're in the field. If they win out, they're going to be in. I think maybe there's like a 1% chance that if they win really ugly 2 weeks in a row and some really crazy stuff happens, that maybe they could get left out. And I'm just saying that as a tiny possibility.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if Oklahoma wins out, they're in the college football playoff. If it were to land this way, this is how it would look today if the season ended. Oklahoma gets a home game against Notre Dame. I hope it lands this way. How awesome would it be to host Notre Dame in a college football playoff matchup?
Oh my gosh, I still have my grandparents still talk about how they cried when Notre Dame broke OU's win streak all those years ago. I mean, that is one of those that they don't even play all that often, and I hear people say it's one of their biggest rivals. That would be so fun to see, especially in Norman, and especially with the way Notre Dame's been playing. They haven't been all that convincing to me this year. It'd be a really fun.
This would be like the blue blood regional, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk about the bluest of blue bloods in college football, it's probably these three in Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, to have those three kind of
Just
in their
all
own
right
bracket
there.
is unbelievable. But the Sooners right now are in. I think that would be a really fun matchup. I think that's probably a matchup that Oklahoma fans have to like with Notre Dame and the Oklahoma defense. And, I don't know how they match up against Ohio State. We can talk about that a little bit later when that maybe becomes a reality. But I would love the Sooners in that matchup. I think it would be a ton of fun. Outside of that, I don't know that Tulane is one of the best 12 teams in the country, but if you give me the green wave on the bracket, I mean, I'm not going to turn that logo away by any means.
Yeah, no. I mean, that would be they've been impressive to watch this year. I have most been impressed with Indiana being able to, they had their year, was it last year or two? Yeah. You think, okay, it's Indiana. No way they do that again. But look at them. I mean,
guilty as charged. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they have just done some real damage. And Texas A&M too. I didn't think at the beginning of the year, I didn't think they could keep it up. I mean, they've been obviously tested this past weekend. But I mean, these are some fun teams that there's a lot of real contenders this year.
Yeah. Give me Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and if the winner gets Ohio State, I think that would be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
All right, we got to give you 10 seconds of MAC football before we make game picks.
Yeah, MACtion delivered this week. We had a quarterback in Ohio, Parker Navarro, threw for 28 yards in his team's 28-point win, 42-14 over UMass this week. It's not really something you see.
And that was 10 seconds of MAC football with MAC correspondent Adam King. We will wrap up the show with game picks next here on the End Zone.
Time now for the Brahms in the Bag Pick of the Week.
All right, let's make some game picks. It's a miserable college football weekend with most of the SEC schools playing nobodies, but your Arkansas Razorbacks are in action against the Texas Longhorns.
Yes, a.k.a. the best 2-win team in America, and on the road against a rival. Give me Arkansas to cover that one.
Texas has been terrible. Arkansas plays everybody close. It's a trap. Give me the Longhorns minus 8.5. Tennessee at Florida.
I think this will be a close one. Yes, it's on the road. Ultimately, the Volunteers are just a better team this weekend. I think they get it done.
I mean, copy, paste, Tennessee all the way. Florida has cashed it in, so I'll take the Vols. All right, probably the biggest game of the weekend outside of OU Missouri, USC at Oregon.
Yeah, rivalry game. I think this one lives up to being a rivalry game. Ultimately, I think Oregon wins, but USC makes it close.
That's a lot of points for Oregon to cover. I think Oregon is really good, but they've not dominated people really. I think they win as well, but give me the nearly 10 points that the Trojans are getting in this matchup. All right, some have said that Oklahoma State is close. They're close to getting it done. I just want to know if they're close to covering 3 weeks in a row. They're getting 14.5 points at UCF.
You mentioned copy and pasting. I'm going to copy and paste what I've said these past few weeks. Oklahoma State does a good job of keeping it close, and they are just so close. Do I think they win it? No, but I do think they cover it.
I have picked against them the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to make that mistake the third time. I think they cover for the third straight week.
Yep.
Give me the 14.5 against UCF, but I don't think they get the victory. All right, the big game, Oklahoma hosting Missouri.
It's easy to call this one a trap game just because of the emotional win that they're coming off of on the road. Missouri is still a very good team. Ultimately, I think OU does not fall victim to a trap. I think it's a close one, and it's won in the fourth quarter.
I think it's a trap because all SEC games are one-score games, so give me Missouri plus the 6.5. I think the Sooners win the game, but I'll take the points.
Okay.
Sooners by a field goal. in this one. So I'm taking the points, but I think Oklahoma marches forward toward the college football playoff. All right, everybody have a great weekend. For Camryn Johnson, I am Colby Daniels. We'll see you next week on The End Zone.